Welcome back, folks. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a catch up on what's going on, as well as explaining basically how I'm going to continue doing the series after my small break over the last week. Basically, I've already really taught the most of the foundation and how everything works. Now it's just a matter of actually putting it down and utilizing it. I think some of the other concepts I'm going to leave out for a while till everything is kind of very well understood by everybody, and it's pretty, I guess, easy to see and spot. So what I'm going to be focusing on the classes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, it's really going to be doing day reviews of things that I have done or I should have done. So either I made mistakes or I made good trades, breaking them down in detail on why they're such good setups, why they're not so good setups. And it's going to be more of a raw, you guys are going to see everything that happens, like in terms of my thought process when I'm marking it out. For my trading window is from 7 a.m. till 4 o'clock. So that's going to be the main focus for me to be doing these classes and day reviews. It's really going to be inside of this window that we're going to be operating in. Anything beyond that, I'm not going to be really explaining because typically I'm not trading in Asia or London. So explaining it would be kind of a waste on my end. But I know some people trade it, so maybe I'll bring it back when I have a little bit more time or I'm not so strapped for time. So today, coming into New York, I honestly didn't know whether we were going to go up or not. I thought it made sense for us to go up higher, so I came in with a bullish bias on the day, but that wasn't the case. So I quickly switched into a bearish bias because the opportunity was given to me to go bearish first. So breaking this down first, the thing I'm focusing on the most is 5-minute setups and 15-minute setups. Usually I don't take trades out of the 1 hour and the 4 hour. So I will utilize that for bias. Like if I have a sweepable that needs to be created and so on, then I'll use that. But otherwise, I will just stay on the 5-minute and the 15-minute. I don't have the 1 minute pulled up ever until it actually comes up that there is a sweep. If there's no sweep, there's no trade. That's a pretty hard dead set rule. Also on my back testing, I am going to be switching my entries a little bit just onto very specific rules, which I'll go over here in just a little bit once we start going over some of the day. So we come into the day. As soon as we come into the window, I see that this high got taken. I see that this high failed to get taken. So I'm just kind of waiting to see if a new CISD happens. We did have a CISD to the upside, not there, but here. Yeah, here. So I was waiting for a sweepable to come on board on this side. So it was looking like this or like this. Either way, it doesn't make a difference. So I was waiting for a sweepable to happen here, but there just wasn't. We finally created one, I believe, here, but there was no breaker to play that off. So there was really nothing to do there. And then after that got put in, we had also created a bearish CISD. So quick little tip here. Whenever you have a sweepable that forms, but then that sweepable forms a CISD on the opposite side, wait for the structure here to be able to form a breaker nearby, a fresh new breaker. So if this is the candle that made the CISD, don't take a trade off this long. Wait for this to make a high, then go lower, then actually take that trade. Because otherwise, you're going to get liquidated most of the time because this is going to be a false order. So let me zoom in here. There was no CISD here anyways, but if there was a CISD here, let's say, I would have skipped that CISD because we had just made, on the 1 minute specifically, because we had just made a CISD to the downside on the 5-minute. So I would want it to do something like this. I would want it to make a low, make a high, make a lower low, and then I could take a 1 minute breaker out of this leg whenever that would happen. But yeah, it's really important. That will keep you out of, honestly, a lot of trouble. So it's important to honestly keep that in mind always. So coming back to today, we have the CISD to the downside. We then have the low, high, low, giving us our sweepable to then short out of. So again, we have a short and a long available in this area. But to me, I'm just looking for the first thing that makes sense. The long doesn't make sense because, again, what I just explained, like we just had a CISD, so I would want it to go lower before I could actually get long. So if that's the case, then the only thing that makes sense for me is to short right now and wait to see what happens. So I'm waiting for a short to happen, and unfortunately it comes, but he just leaves. The candle that confirms just completely left without looking back. So unfortunately, there was no trade I could take out of this. I did put the order in, but obviously just never got filled back up. So unfortunately, we missed this good bit of profit that happened today. After that, I was flat for a long time because there is quite literally nothing here in this area that you could play. As far as like longs, yes, there is a sweepable here, but at this point, longs are losing, meaning the sweepables on the longs already got taken too many times. And so you would want brand new structure here to make a new CISD to the upside on the 5-minute. And then you want that to create a sweepable to sweep and then make us go higher. But that wasn't obviously happening here. If you zoom in, let's go over structure. High, low, high, low, lower, low, high, lower, low, high, low, higher, high. So finally, here is where he made the higher high. So that's when the change in set of delivery happens to the upside. Now, I'm going to be a little bit hypocritical here because I did take a short here, and I just told you guys not to take a trade out of this, but I'll explain the context. So to the downside, we already had a CISD to the downside, which is here. Okay. So across from the left side to the right side, we took this low, that's a CISD, a low, high, higher, high, lower, low, giving us a CISD on here. We didn't have all this mess that's I just explained, right? And we go above here. Now the CISD is also, as you can see, this is the CISD here. So it's low, high, lower, low, giving us this as a sweepable as well. Okay. So this is a sweepable on the 5-minute time frame. It is also a CISD on the 5-minute time frame to the upside. Okay. So I'm waiting for price to react out. Oh, sorry, I just switched to the 5-minute. I'm waiting for price to react out of this section, and I'm willing to take the very first breaker that comes out of here because that is the first sweepable on the 5-minute on the structure that took everything out to buy from. So there's no buys that I could take out of here, no matter what. So regardless, it needs to make a low, a sweepable low on the 5-minute for me to long out of. So if it needs to make a low, well, that means that price needs to go down in order for it to come back up, right? So if it needs to go down for it to come back up, well, then I can short, okay? So that was my thought process there. And so I took this short right here, and I took it to 2 standard deviations because this is a bullet one. And so this brings me to the new updates on the data. This is just what's going on right now, and I'm not sure if it's market conditions or if it's going to be permanently this way. We'll see what happens. But as far as it goes now, for bullet one, I will always target -2. So I'll always target 2 standard deviations. Yes, it can go to 4. Yes, it can happen a few times in a row. But according to the data over the last month, the most reliable thing is just to go to -2 for bullet one. Okay. The other rule that I am adding is, and I already explained this a while back on another video, but from your swing low to high, if it's a 5-minute bearish structure, like you're looking for a bearish breaker, I will only engage it on the first bullet if the 5-minute swing low or high, it's within 5 candles. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the maximum. If that high got ran here by a candle, I would stop and I wouldn't trade. Okay, I wouldn't take this trade. I would just fade it because it was within 5 candles. It was permissible, and I took it. Admittedly, I didn't like the way he printed. I'll be honest, I didn't, because he made equal highs, as you can see. Okay, so this looked pretty nasty to me, but it was valid. It did have an IFEG. It does have a CB. He did close on the first time. It's an outside candle. So everything is telling me, okay, this is a high probability breaker. and it's bullet one. Let's go for it. Let's go to 2 standard deviations. And sure enough, we got our 2 standard deviations. We hit, and then price just went higher after that. So we got exactly our target, and then it turned around and got higher. Now, once this gets swept again, which got swept here, and it got swept as bullet 2, okay, we can take another short out of here because this is bullet 1, short worked out. Now we're going for bullet 2. Now, out of this section, there's another bullet 2 that's going to come out, which is here. Remember, this original trade here was valid. We were not able to be part of it, sadly, but it was valid. Okay, so bullet 1 for this short was here. Bullet 1 for this short is here. Now, both of them get swept, but what doesn't get swept? The high where they're coming from on the 5-minute structure, which is here. The CISD has this high. The CISD has the same high. So the CISD has this sweepable, giving us the first bullet here. And then this CISD has this sweepable, giving us the first bullet here. So both of them get swept, but the breaker never gets swept. That means that we can take a bullet 2 out of this zone as long as this hasn't been swept. Okay, so I wait for price to go above that. I put notifications and I'm just waiting patiently. Price finally goes above it, and now I'm looking for the breaker. There was a breaker about to form right here, but it didn't. Then I think there's a small breaker here. Yeah, there's tiny breaker here, but I don't take that. Why? Because it's 12 o'clock. It's lunch. Okay, I don't take any trades during lunchtime. So from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, I am flat. I will engage after 12 o'clock. I will not engage before 12 o'clock is up. So this to me is a fade no matter what. So I wouldn't have taken this, nor should you, honestly. 12 o'clock is just not a good time to be trading. So anyways, that gets swept. And then it finally gives us our bullet, which is right here, right? High, low, higher high, and then lower low, giving us our breaker for the afternoon. And this, you would target 4 standard deviations for this trade. Now, where I messed up today, frankly, was I took this, but then I actually ended up flipping, okay? And that was, oh, sorry, I marked this wrong. I'm so sorry. The breaker is actually here. Now, why is it here? Okay, let's zoom in and let me just break it down slowly. So, low, high, low, high, no low here yet, but then a low prints here, and it's below this high. You can draw across like so, and then higher. So when we close below it here on this candle, sorry, when we draw below here in this candle, that's the CISD, okay? So as soon as that happens, you're good to take the trade, okay? So yeah, I took this. I was in this on the original drop, and I exit when we were working back up. Now, the reason why I exit, and this is where I'm going to go over my mistake today, was because I flipped into a long. Now, why did I flip into a long? Let's go back to the 5-minute. And this is honestly my mistake. I never flip during back test, ever, ever, ever. I very, very, very rarely flip while I am live on the market. Like, it's pretty rare that I do flip. But honestly, I'm just going to take it out from my procedure overall because it causes me more harm than good most of the time. So on the upside, what do we have? We have CISD here, right? We then have, which has a sweepable here. We then have CISD here. So the sweeps that I was looking for are also CISD to the upside. I came in the day thinking we were going to go up overall. Okay, I had a bullish bias. So I was willing to short if that happened first, okay? But I really wasn't short bias. And I let that come into my head, and that's why I ended up failing this trade. So CISD here, high, low, high, giving us the sweep here on the 5-minute, which of course becomes a breaker on the 5-minute. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I say, if the sweepable, it's a CISD, unless you have a very strong reason on why it should work out. Let's say it's a bullet 2, okay? If it's a bullet 2, all right, like that kind of makes sense, but you should still try to look for a new swing to be forming, basically, before you take that trade, because otherwise you're gonna be in trouble, right? And we can see that even happening up here, right? We have the CISD to the upside. We have the breaker before 12 o'clock that's over, which was here, right? And what did price do? He made a low, he made a higher high, and then he was ready to roll on the 5-minute. So you preferably want to have a recent swing point after that CISD is done to actually take the trade out of. Okay. So here, this is where my mistake was. I entered this trade and I got, the best fill I could have ever asked for, because I honestly didn't realize this was a breaker at first. Literally had zero clue this was a breaker when I saw the trade at first glance. Zero clue. But I didn't realize, oh snap, it is a breaker. I drew it across here. Now, why is it a breaker between these two? Because this high and this, between this high and this low, there's red candles, either this one or this one. It doesn't matter. Both, well, it would be this one, honestly, but yeah. So I got a fill literally like up here. Like I literally market order when we were up here, somewhere around there. And so I was going to get a pretty good risk to reward on this trade. It was almost double. Yeah, it was about double. And so, yeah, prices dropping, everything's going good. But then I see this 5-minute sweep, and then I double guess myself because I came in the morning saying, okay, it's going to go up. So I saw the CISD from the first sweep, and I said, oh, I got to flip. I flipped, unfortunately, right after price crashed, and not by a little bit, but by a ton. And that's where my afternoon went. So after that, I was flat for a pretty long time. And then I believe there's a trade here, but we're going to break down why it's not valid. So we have CISD here across, low, high, low, giving us our sweep like so. But what is it also? It's also a CISD to the upside, right? So it's both CISD and sweepable at the same time in the same area. So what do we want to see here? We want to see a high, low, higher high to then go short out of, right? Now, let's say you ignore that and you took this and you come here and you see price and you see the breaker, which is right here. Why is it also not valid? Ignore the fact that it's a CISD for a second. Let's just take that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles from the swing low to the swing high. So price would have to literally go from here all the way down here and close below to become a 5-minute breaker to the downside in order for this to actually become a new CISD. So if that's the case, it's too far away, especially for bullet 1. And this would be bullet 1. There's no other bullets besides this. So this is a fade. I don't take this. It does count as bullet 1. Although I did not take it, it does count as bullet 1. So that means that I can take the next short out of price action. And so I wanted to take a short here, but unfortunately the market was closing. So I wasn't able to be involved in this because it wouldn't be able to deliver before the market would close. And that's what we have now playing out. So this is bullet 2 out of the day. So we mark this as first sweep, and then this would be the second sweep after the bullet was taken. So bullet 2, high, low, higher, high. Breaker gets confirmed right here on this candle. And the target for this is going to be 4 standard deviations, which would give us previous day low, because this is yesterday's low, right? So this is very, very likely going to deliver before, tomorrow, before New York session starts, I would assume, before this high gets taken. It already delivered 2.5. So it can definitely just turn around from there and go up again. But yeah, I would expect this 4 standard deviations to get taken. But yeah, just to recap the rules, you want to have, for first bullet, you want to have your swing high or low, if it's going to be from a buy, within 5 candles for your first bullet. For your second bullet, it doesn't really matter as long as there is no CISD to the upside. Okay. So as long as there's not a CISD up here, then you could have done it. Now there is a CISD here, okay, from the left side, but it already did that here. So now this would be the high, low, higher, high to this move. So you're not going to keep doing that forever, because otherwise you will never take a trade, obviously. Like you do have to take chances eventually, but you're not just going to keep going up and up and up and up, because eventually you're just going to be flat forever and you're never going to take a trade. And as long as it's high probability, like, you should be taking your trade. So hopefully that all makes sense. Those are the only updates. Bullet 1 goes to -2. Bullet 2 goes to -4 by default. Out of the last month or so, Bullet 2 has 63 or 64% win rate. And then out of that, I think it was only 7% was -2 standard deviations. The rest of it was -4. So yes, you will lose. Basically, the trade I went to -2, the couple trades I went to -2, you will lose those. But -4 will obviously get you 4 times your money every time you hit those. And it happened again more than 50% of the time. That's a very profitable strategy. For Bullet 1, -2, the win rate was 62 or 63%, if I'm not mistaken, for -2. And then he had like half of those were -4s. The problem is that because half of those are -4s and not majority of them, it's not profitable to go to -4. Well, let me not say that. It is profitable, but it's not as profitable, because the ones that don't reach -4, obviously, will count as losses, essentially. So although you had a 60% plus originally win rate, if you did -2 and -4, you're never going to know which ones are -2 and -4 so accurately that you can tell for sure. Yes, with experience, you will be able to tell more often, but that just leaves more room for error and making mistakes, which makes it harder to essentially duplicate over and over and to teach it across a platform like YouTube, where, telling the general public what I'm doing and now they got to go and learn it themselves. It's very different to teach that. I don't want to call it intuition, but that experience on knowing why something is going to go to -4 versus why it's going to go to -2. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. That's the update. That's the class. Basically, every week we're going to do this, where I'm just going to break it down really, really slowly, explain why this is high probability, why it's not high probability, what's so good about it, what's not good about it, what things to note. From all these trades were obviously in macro, by the way, so I didn't need to point that out because all of them were fitting off the rules of macro or not macro. This trade here was also the first sweep of a 15-minute, which is here. I guess I will give an update on this as well. So it's the first time he sweeps on the 15-minute. CISG here, right? Low, high, low. Giving us the first sweep on the first bullet on the 15-minute. But it's the second bullet on the 5-minute. And that's the part that matters the most out of the context here. If it's the first bullet on the 15-minute standalone, it's not, I did some data gathering. I'm not taking those as of right now standalone as often, putting them on the back burner for a little bit, because the data I gather over the last month tell me that they didn't win as much. As I collect more data, I might change my mind on that. But it's a bullet 2 5-minute. So if it's a bullet 2 5-minute and it's a bullet 1 15-minute, I'm taking the trade because it's a 5-minute bullet 2. I'm not taking the trade because it's actually a 15-minute bullet 1. Okay. Now, if it's a 15-minute bullet 2, story changes. If it's a 15-minute bullet 2, I'll take the trade because it's actually a 15-minute bullet 2. The win rate on 15-minute bullet 2s over the last 30 days was like 80%, if I'm not mistaken. And all of the trades went to -4 standard deviations. So they were the highest win rate and they were the ones that went the furthest, which makes a lot of sense because, we're catching the expansion of the higher time frame. So if the 15-minute candles look like this, the 5-minute candles look like this, and the 1-minute candles look like this, you have the most room to make money on this side because the candles are so big. So if you break it down on a fractal, you're taking this trade out of this candles that look like this, of course, is going to have enough room to expand to -4 before it actually, gets stopped out. So even if it doesn't expand on the 15-minute to standard deviations on these big breakers, like for example, this huge breaker, like even if it doesn't expand to 2.5, and so on, it just has so much room to work with that it doesn't really matter. Like you can still capture so much. It didn't even reach, let me bring it up. It didn't even reach 2 standard deviations from yesterday, right? But this short still happened and it made it all the way down here to 1.5. Again, 2, 2.5, and 4, 4.5 are the most important standard deviations, and it didn't even get there. So, you know, it can still get there. Like I said, I'm expecting a continuation here to happen. But the point is you're catching this fractal out of this huge candle, and that's why you have so much room to make money. So yeah, bullet twos in the 15 minutes are like, I mean, they're the stuff, like, for sure. Now, that being said, if you already lost more than 2 bullets on a 5-minute, then you have to be really careful, because now you have to understand that you are on the losing side at that moment. And although it can turn around, you just have to understand, like, there is a high chance that it can just keep going straight because it already lost on the fractal time frame, signaling to you, hey, on the higher time frame, we're also going to start losing. So yeah, that's the update. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys. Bye.